In just under 24 hours, we have NFP, non-farm payroll, which is one of the biggest market moving events of the month every month. It occurs on the first Friday, and it is essentially the US unemployment figures. Now, the reason that matters to you, if you're trading any of the USD pairs, maybe you're trading XAU USD, dollar yen, euro dollar, pound dollar, whatever you're trading, if it has US dollar in it, it's going to be impactful to your trades most likely. So in this video, my goal is to give you my top outlook or forecast for the event happening tomorrow. Let's get it. Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Nick. Subscribe if you're new. We talk all about trading Forex and we try and keep it real here. Unlike a lot of the other places, there are some great YouTubers, don't get me wrong, but this industry, as we all know, is riddled with lots of scams and BS and, get rich quick stuff. We try and keep it real. And again, big news like this, I'll be the first one to say, I don't know with any certainty where the news is going to go. There are sometimes people who will try and tell you, the dollar is going to fly or the dollar is going to drop like a rock. I don't necessarily know, but I do, as I've been mentioning on the channel for a while, I do have an overall bullish perspective on the dollar due to the Fed's kind of expected 3 rate hikes in 2022. That means that they're sort of hawkish on, rate hikes and reducing stimulus. All those things are kind of positive for the dollar. And so regardless of what happens with NFP's figures, I am still overall expecting a move to the upside for the dollar in the grand scheme of things. So when we go into the DXY here for a moment, what we can see is that we are actually primed for some interesting scenarios going into tomorrow's news. Now, of course, by the time you watch this video, this price action might be all over the place because I am filming this hours before you see it, as we have to edit it and all that good stuff that goes into these YouTube videos. By the way, if you enjoy them, hit that like button down below. It does help to support the channel. But yeah, the DXY is in a nice little range-bound channel here. We can kind of see that there has been sellers up top and there's been buyers down below. And this is probably not by coincidence. The reason we've kind of been so range-bound and not directly moving one way is because a lot of investors right now are preparing, just like you and I, for NFP tomorrow. NFP, again, major market moving potential news. And so when we look at this, what I like to do pre-NFP is I like to take a look at markets and I like to say, well, what if we watch for some breakouts either direction? So for me, I have a bullish perspective fundamentally on the dollar. I like the idea of being a dollar bull at this moment. Really, I have been for the last few months, but we've been consolidating, and so maybe this is the chance to look for some of those breakouts on the dollar. So let's talk about this. Let's say we get a really strong number for the NFP. Let's say NFP hits. Let's say it provides the goods, right? And we see this massive uptick on the dollar. If that happens, then what I may do, well, I already have some dollar trades, which I'll actually show you in a second. I do have some dollar trades open right now, which I'm still updating going into NFP. Maybe I'll talk about that in just a second. But the idea being this, if we get a major breakout, there may be opportunities for retest buys and continuation plays going into next week, right? Because this falls on a Friday, so we may see, big opportunities on Friday and on Monday if there is some nice bullish catalyst. But for me, as a bull on the dollar, even if jobs kind of miss or we get some volatility that causes this market to come down, I may actually see that as an opportunity to pick up the dollar long at a discounted rate. So you're saying right now, I can already hear you sitting at your keyboard, you're typing it, you're getting really ready, and then you're saying, Nick, why not just buy, if you're bullish up here and you're bullish down here, why not just buy it here? But remember, as traders, what we are doing is very simple. We're not trying to predict every single thing that's happening in the markets. What we're trying to do is take trades that give us the best probability of making money relative to losing money, risking as small as possible to make as much as possible. And with that in mind, the idea being, if it comes down here, there are setups like this. I could take buys, right? Maybe not on DXY. We'll look at individual currency pairs in a moment. But the idea being, if the dollar were to enter into either one of these scenarios, these are setups, in my view, that I can get a little bit better of a risk to reward factor going on, rather than just buying here with a stop loss way down here. That's a really big stop loss. Whereas if I were to get that discounted price, I could feel more confident in my buy with a smaller stop loss in mind. That's the point. Let's go take a look at some individual currency pairs, starting with a very popular one. We'll take a look at gold together and look at gold go down. This is a crazy move to the downside here today. Now, this is kind of, if you've been watching the channel for a little while, you know I'm not incredibly bullish on gold. In fact, I'm very bullish on the dollar. And so with this breakdown, this is not super surprising to me. With dollar strength coming in, we are seeing gold sell off a little bit. And so now looking at this, what can we do? Well, this might be an opportunity. Like, let's say that you get some gold, let's say you get some gold strength, but more specifically with NFP, as that is today's topic. Let's say that you get a bounce back, right? Let's say you get some short-term dollar weakness, which causes, remember, whenever we are looking at a pair of anything, we are talking about two different assets, right? So we have gold. So let's say you're saying, okay, well, what if gold goes up? That would mean some weak dollar numbers. If that were to happen, maybe you could get a spike back to the upside, and that could be an opportunity to look for shorts on gold if you are bearish on gold, right? So the idea being, even if some of these markets I don't necessarily trade myself, I know that my audience has a very, very big interest in things like gold and certain different currency pairs. So I try and cover them to the best of my ability. So from a technical perspective, that's beautiful. I mean, that's a very, very, very strong breakout to the downside there today. And there may be some some shorting opportunities going into the rest of this week, if not going into next week. So yeah, there's gold for you. I think right now this lower high is a big deal. You look at the daily chart for gold and you kind of see it's still just struggling to really get anywhere. Even with the recent bullish rallies, it's just this very slow and not very, successful run to the upside. We're just seeing these slow movements on gold, and finally now seeing some volatility, but this time now to the downside, which is honestly more along the lines of what I was kind of expecting for gold due to my dollar bullish thesis. So with that said, that's gold. So maybe we'll come back. I'm sure we will. We'll be doing a live stream for NFP if you'd like to join us for that, by the way. That should be already published on YouTube. You should be able to go find it. But here's the current position that I do have. I am short on euro dollar with two different trades. My first entry being up here, my second entry being there. You can see I'm in my broker. It's no demo profits, no nonsense like that. But I'm looking at euro dollar with a bearish perspective here going into the NFP event. I do plan to manage this trade. As I mentioned before, my plan is to probably take some profits before the news event, trying to get some of this out before the volatility, as we could see, all sorts of things with news events. You could see major spikes either direction. So of course, I would love it if it spiked to the downside, but if it doesn't, then I want to be, it's more about what could go wrong than what could go right when it comes to trading. That sounds kind of pessimistic, but that's just the truth. Like, you have to be prepared for the worst case at any given time, because again, markets are going to probably throw that at you at some point or another. So it kind of bounced off of this area here, demand level, which got me into my secondary trade, which was fine because I was able to pick up some really good entries there, or the secondary entry. So I'm fine with this right now. But going into the NFP event, there's a couple scenarios. So we'll look at the daily chart, because the euro dollar has been quite range bound recently. You do have kind of this big area of resistance up top here, which is actually where I took my initial sell trade. So you got that big area of resistance up here. If price were to get incredibly bullish and break through that, that would pretty much nullify everything with my trade, hence why I have my stop losses placed up there. So that's kind of my idea going into this. But if that happens, of course, I will stop out. But if we see some form of the opposite, what I'm really interested in on euro dollar, and probably why I will try to leave a trade on going into the NFP, at least one of these two, would be a breakout of this trend line. So you can kind of see it's a very clean daily chart trend line, very obvious one. Even if you're not a big, massive trend line trader like myself, it's not really like, my predominant style. Everyone can see this, right? We're seeing a pretty clear counter trend going on in the markets that looks kind of weak and looks prime for, in my opinion, failure. So going into the NFP event, maybe that catalyst occurs. Maybe we see some downside here that could lead us into trade setups like this, which may be continuation ideas off of my trade here. Even if I have a trade here, and I take profits here, my idea may be to re-enter on a retest over here, right? So the idea is that, as a swing trader, I'm taking my trades, I'm closing them out when the market tells me to do so based on my strategy, and I'm looking to do that and do it over and over and over. So with this event, maybe there's some volatility that shoots the euro dollar to the downside on strong dollar news numbers. So we'll keep that on the back foot, right? We'll think about that going into it. Pound dollar is the next one I did want to cover here going into the event. Pound dollar, really, really interesting right now, because So I'm very mixed on this. I like the pound long right now personally, but I also like the dollar long. So when I look at the pound dollar, it's just not a whole bunch of interest for me. I think you may get some volatility around these areas depending on what the news figures are, but I can't make a huge comment on this. I do like to comment on this pair because I know it is a very popular one. Right now, from purely a technical perspective, it looks like it's headed up. It looks very strong, bullish. You know, very consistent higher lows on this market on the 4-hour chart, which has me, you know, when I look at this, I'm saying, okay, well, you know what, it does look like it's making a move higher. So if you're trading this, let's say you have a bearish perspective on the dollar. Here's a point that I can make for you that might be very helpful to some pound traders. If you're looking at the pound dollar, and let's say you're not so hot on the dollar, you're like, Nick, I think you're wrong about this. I think you're a dummy. You a fool! Which, hey, you know what? You wouldn't be the only one. I have plenty of comments who would probably agree with you every once in a while. So, but the point is, like, if you're looking at the pound dollar and you're saying, okay, well, I'm not a big bull on the dollar, and I really am more of a bull on the pound, then by all means, maybe you look at, you know, dollar strength, as a potential entry point, right? So if we were to see dollar strength, that would cause the pound dollar to go down, right? So we're thinking about our different scenarios here. We're using our if-thens. If you've been watching my channel for a little while, you know I love to use the words if and then in my trading, because I am not a crystal ball gazer. I am not a fortune teller. I am a risk manager at heart. And so what I'm doing is I'm taking trades where I basically pre-plan my trades. If this happens, then I will do this. If this happens, then I will do this, right? So if the market dips on strong dollar news, right, causing the dollar to go up and the pound to come down, if that were to happen, then if that happens, then I could look for potential entries at a discounted rate, fitting into my bullish pound dollar perspective. I'm just speaking out loud. This is not necessarily what I'm personally doing because I'm not really a big fan of trading this pair right now, but just because I'm not doesn't mean that your strategy and your trade plan may not find you some great opportunities going into this volatility. Remember that trading NFP doesn't necessarily mean you have to trade the spike. You may not have to trade the exact moment the news releases. You can trade the aftermath. You can trade the before. You can trade, you know, the next week, right? There's lots of different ways to approach NFP. What I would encourage you to do, though, is whatever you do, go back test it. Go look at some past NFPs and see how things played out. That's a really powerful tactic that I think a lot of traders should think about doing more of. Go take the time to go through some different scenarios. What you can do is on Forex Factory, where you can go look at the numbers. By the way, we should do that just for a second. You can actually go right here, check this out. So if I go to unemployment rate, I can go back in history and look at the different things, and then I could go look at the charts at those times and try to see what would have happened, right? How would my strategy have played out? If I'm trading reversals, would that have set me up? If I'm trading continuations, how would that have done? Does the news tend to reverse or fade, or does it continue more often, right? There's some great backtesting opportunities that we're not gonna be able to get into this one video today that you should definitely go consider and play around with. So that's what I'm gonna probably leave you guys with. Before I go though, let's say this. So unemployment rate, they're forecasting 4.1% and 4.2% as the previous figure. So tomorrow what we're expecting is probably 4.1%, but if something surprises us, that's where we see the volatility. If something comes out exactly as expected, right? If everyone's expecting 4.1% and that's what it comes out as, you wouldn't really expect too much volatility. That's probably where the market has priced things in. But if we see all of a sudden 4.3%, right, that would be a massive bad thing for the dollar, because higher unemployment, that's concerning, may slow the Fed down a little bit, right? Things to consider. At the end of the day, what we're going to be doing is we're going to watch the numbers live on here on YouTube. If you are willing to join us, you can jump in on the live stream. We'll probably start at 8 a.m., 30 minutes prior to the news event, and we'll watch the spike and evaluate it together. So if you'd like to join us, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you there. What's up, guys? Thanks for watching today's video. There are more videos available on our channel here and here, so go ahead and click into that for some more free trading content. With that said, thanks for watching. We'll see you back next time.